And now I have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker of the morning, Mark Barden, who will be discussing the Sandy Hook Promise, Know the Signs. Since his son Daniel was killed in 2012 during the shooting at the Sandy Hook Elementary School that also took the lives of 19 additional first graders and 6 teachers, Mr. Barden has dedicated himself to finding sensible solutions to gun violence. He co-founded the Sandy Hook Promise and now serves as the managing director, focusing on policy and outreach efforts. Mr. Barden believes that thoughtful, sincere dialogue will lead us to a common ground. He's met with former President Barack Obama, many members of Congress. He's done multiple interviews on every major network and has spoken to numerous organizations, all focused on creating a safer future for our children and our communities. Please join me in welcoming Mark Barden.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm not used to hearing that introduction that way. But I just want to tell you, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming to this at the end of your conference, and for coming to this particular session and listening to my story. And that's what this is. This is a story. I'm not a professional speaker by any means, and what I'm going to do is to share with you just a bit of my story and the tragedy that has impacted my life and what I've chosen to do with that. I think it's important that we have this conversation. I wish it could be more of a conversation, but because of the work that you do, I have so much respect for this. You know, I think any parent has so much respect for pediatricians and childcare, and I think because of the work I've chosen to do is all about prevention. I think there are some very organic and appropriate intersections between what we are doing, and I think we can bring value and inform each other's work in that way. So it really is meaningful to me that you're here, and I want to tell you that, how much I appreciate that. I'm a guitar player by trade. That's what I do. That's my business, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to be able to do that for my entire adult life and support my family. My wife, Jackie, is a school teacher, and we moved to Newtown, Connecticut in 2007 because we heard the schools were really good, and we could just barely afford living in the neighborhood that we lived in. But we had a great setup in that a lot of my work I did at night as a guitar player, and it afforded me the opportunity to be home with my 3 children during the day. And then we'd all have dinner together at night, and then often my work was at night, and I'd come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and be back up again at 6 with the kids, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. We have 3 beautiful children. James just started his freshman year at Northeastern University in Boston. Natalie is 16 years old and a junior at Newtown High School. And the third of our 3 children, our little Daniel, would have celebrated his 13th birthday in September. So we had a great little life carved out for ourselves, one in which we were able to be with our kids all of the time. And I just loved it. And Daniel was the third of our 3 kids, so I got to be with him. We had a lot of one-on-one time together when the older kids were at school. And I used to love every minute of it. And he was a special little kid. We used to jokingly call him the caretaker of all living things because he would pick up the worms off the sidewalk and put them in the grass so they wouldn't burn in the sun. And it would take a long time to walk down the street because there's another one. Or those big black carpenter ants that we'd get in our kitchen, he'd pick them up because he thought they should be outside with their families. I mean, why are my little ant friends biting my fingers, Daddy? But he would stay the course and deliver them outside where he thought they should be with their families. And then when he started school, he was in preschool and he was in kindergarten and then in first grade. All along the way, we used to hear these wonderful stories from his teachers that Daniel would notice the kids sitting alone. And Daniel would notice if somebody was having a hard time or a hard day and want to check in with them. To the point where he would ask to be excused from an activity if he saw somebody who was isolated or sitting alone so he could go sit with them. And as a parent, you love to hear those stories more than grades or anything else. You love to hear that your child is being a good citizen and being caring to others outside of the house. And so, just ask their dad. I think all my kids do that very well, but Daniel had a special quality about that why we called him the caretaker of all living things. And he used to hold the door for strangers and hold the door for adults, and he was a great little kid. Anyway, all of that changed on the morning of Friday, December 14th, 2012, when a 20-year-old young man who lived about a mile away from us got up that morning and shot his mother to death in her bed and drove to our little Sandy Hook elementary school and shot his way into the school and shot and killed 6 educators and 20 first grade children. And one of those was our little Daniel. I forgot to put this up. This is Daniel. And that's how you could see that kid almost all the time, always happy, always smiling. And to this day, and I imagine for the rest of my life, it's going to be a challenge for me to tell this story and to have to reckon with the fact that that little kid is gone, and he's gone forever. I mean, of course it's obvious, but it's hard for me to internalize this and wrap my head around it because I had such a wonderful, close bond with him and all my kids, but we really had a very close connection with this little old soul. And some of the things that I think about now are that this was someone else's choice. Somebody made a choice to do this. And the next step in that thinking is that because it was a choice, it was preventable. And so that really leads me to why I'm here today and what I'm doing with my life now with Sandy Hook Promise, is really trying to capture the essence of prevention. And so, like I said, I'm not a speaker, a motivational speaker, but I also don't want to appear as a victim to you. I'm hoping that I can share some of the work that I'm doing with Sandy Hook Promise in a way that can bring some hope as we continue to see the news of these horrible, horrible tragedies that continue to unfold in this country. And I can hopefully bring you some hope that we are on the course to change that and to really actually do something about it in a meaningful, sustainable way. And so that's what Sandy Hook Promise is. It's the essence of prevention. And it came to be in the aftermath of the horrible tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut that took the lives of those 26 people by some folks in our community and some family members who started meeting in the library and in kitchens and trying to address this and trying to come to terms with how can we change this? How can we prevent this from happening again? And that's who we are. We're moms and dads and a couple of families who lost loved ones in that tragedy, and we are growing as an organization. And our basic, most fundamental objective is to prevent other families from living the pain that I will live for the rest of my life. So we've identified ways to actually prevent this. I literally lay awake at night thinking, how could this have been prevented? What are the different ways? What are the different signals? What are the different signs, warning signs that were given off? This didn't happen in a vacuum. This individual didn't just snap overnight. And as we see these stories play themselves out over and over again in the history of the times since shootings started happening in mass in public, we start to reveal the story of somebody who didn't just snap overnight. This isn't a decision that's just made. This is a continuum. This is a story that we can track. And if we can train people how to recognize those warning signs and then take the next step to get that individual connected to the help or the services that they need before it becomes a tragedy, I think there's a whole lot of solution in that idea. And so that's what we do. That is what Sandy Hook Promise does. We train people how to recognize the warning signs of somebody who is thinking about hurting themselves or hurting somebody else, and then giving them the tools to make some kind of intervention and get that person connected to the help that they need before it becomes a tragedy. And the way we do it is through 4 programs. We have developed or we are helping to scale programs that we can bring into schools youth-serving organizations, and communities at no cost. And we do all of this thanks to the generosity of our donors. We don't charge anything for any of the work that we do. And I'll talk to you a little bit about our programs, but we place a priority on sustaining the programs. We don't just drop them off and say, here it is. We work with the school, we hire staff to actually build the culture of the programs into that school. We can deliver these in a number of different ways through direct training from our national and local trainers. We offer a digital download that is interactive. It's an interactive platform. Schools and districts can self-lead. We can also do a train-the-trainer model. So we have a number of ways that we can bring our programs into schools and sustain them. And I can speak up to a little bit of that in a minute. I'll talk to you about the programs. But we first got started literally researching this. Like, how do you prevent this? How can you get in front of this? How can you get upstream of this? And so we literally went across the country interviewing folks, moms, dads, PTA, gun owners, non-gun owners, healthcare professionals, clergy, any stakeholder that we could find, community leaders that we could find that could help us inform this, and what are your challenges in your communities, and how can that inform our work going forward. We met with Marshall Gans, the father of the civil rights movement, and so we started to develop this idea that we need to treat this as a social movement. We need to change attitudes and behaviors around this and empower people. And so we really did look at it as, we realized folks didn't feel like they could do anything about this. What can I do to prevent gun tragedies? What can I do to stem the violence? Not only the mass shootings, but the daily violence that plagues our cities and towns across the country every day. And so we started to form this idea of really true prevention, really getting in front of this and really identifying those warning signs. The guy that shot my little boy and those 26 people at that school that day had been thinking about this and planning for over a year. So there had to be warning signs all along the way. So if we can train people how to not only recognize, but to actually look for those warning signs, then I know that we can make a sustainable difference. Some of the statistics, I'm sure you're familiar with these statistics in your work. 70% of people who take their life talk about it first. And usually more than one person. In the course of all that study and research that we've done, we have so many horrible, heartbreaking case studies of young people who had left literally hundreds of impressions in social media platforms telling this story about how they don't want to be alive anymore and how they feel they'd be better off dead, and that they know how to find where their father keeps the gun and sending out pictures of the gun. And literally, I'm recalling actual stories of teenagers who have taken their lives and told this story, and nobody in their social media networks picked up on it or thought that they could do anything about it. So we're training folks how to look for that, how to recognize that, and how to take the next step to get somebody some help. So I want to play a little video for you right now because we wanted to illustrate the fact that the warning signs are out there, and it could be happening right in front of you. And so this was a video that we produced with our friends BBDO and Ad Agency in New York, who helped us do a beautiful job with this clever, creative concept. And you might not even recognize it. So this was a video that we produced with our friends BBDO and Ad Agency in New York, who helped us do a beautiful job with this clever, creative concept. I think it's had over 100 million views worldwide. It became very successful. The chances are some of you have probably seen this already. So in social media platforms, telling this story about how they don't want to be alive anymore and how they feel they'd be better off dead, and that they know how to find where their father keeps the gun and sending out pictures of the gun. And literally, in social media platforms, telling this story about how they don't want to be alive anymore and how they feel they'd be better off dead, and that they know how to find where their father keeps the gun and sending out pictures of the gun. And literally, I'm recalling actual stories of teenagers who have taken their lives and told this story, and nobody in their social media networks picked up on it or thought that they could do anything about it. So we're training folks how to look for that, how to recognize that, and how to take the next step to get somebody some help. So I want to play a little video for you right now because we wanted to illustrate the fact that the warning signs are out there, and it could be happening right in front of you. and you might not even recognize it. So this was a video that we produced with our friends BBDO, an ad agency in New York, who helped us do a beautiful job with this clever, creative concept. I think it's had over 100 million views worldwide. It became very successful. The chances are some of you have probably seen this already. So we call this Evan, and it sort of highlights what warning signs might be happening right in front of you and how to look for them.
That's what I do.
So these are the 4 programs that we have to offer. And I'm going to say this because I love to say this. When I tell a school district about our programs and they're saying, when can we do this and how fast can we do it and what's it going to cost us, I love to be able to say, it doesn't cost you anything. We're 100% donor-funded nonprofit, and we can offer these for no cost. And I just love to be able to say that because we don't want money or politics or we just don't want any barriers between the work that I know that we can do and the lives that we can save with our work. So, so these are the 4 programs. Start with hello. Maybe you remember my story about little Daniel reaching out to an isolated classmate. In our research, we've learned, and I'm sure you guys know it as well, sustained chronic social isolation can lead to an increased risk of either being the victim of violence or perpetrating violence. Start with hello trains kids the value of that, the value of the importance of reaching out to somebody who's socially isolated and feels ignored and invisible. And we teach them the difference between healthy alone time too. The kids own this one, the kids run it, it's a short training, and they do great things with it. We have a call to action weeks and awareness weeks around the country, and the kids do a great job with this because they run it and they own it and they're empowered by it. And so Start with Hello is a great social isolation model. Signs of Suicide is our newest program. You guys may be familiar with it. It's the only evidence-based national suicide prevention program and that we are helping to build to scale. It's got a lot of great components in it where it builds a multidisciplinary team within the school to recognize some of the subtle warning signs and then take action on them. We're very proud to be helping to promote and to build Signs of Suicide to scale. Safety assessment and intervention is a threat assessment model. It was originally developed by the FBI in the wake of the Virginia Tech school shooting, and then Dr. Dewey Cornell from the University of Virginia has adapted it for school-based applications, and we are helping him to scale this. This also develops a multidisciplinary team within the school who act as various touch points, who know how to recognize potential warning signs and at-risk behavior, and then triage that information and take the next steps to get to the root cause of that behavior and not just bandaged the wound. We feel that this has already, evidence has shown that it cuts down on expulsions and the school to prison pipeline, and already has evidence-based success that we love to be able to bring this program to schools and communities. This is designed for more of the teachers and the staff and the parents. And then Say Something is kind of our flagship program. This one is, again, for the kids. The kids take this one and they run with it, and they do amazing, beautiful things with it. But it teaches them how to look for those warning signs that are in social media, mostly, but this could be applied to the school bus or the cafeteria. But in social media, the kids are the eyes and the ears, and we recognize that. They see things that their parents don't see. They see things that teachers don't see. We train them how to look for these warning signs. We have a growing evidence of kids following this model, and we've already prevented mass shootings and numerous suicides with this. We understand that it can be hard to talk to a trusted adult. We train them. Identify trusted adults within your network. Maybe they're not your parents. Maybe they're your coach or your faith leader. But we know it takes more than just telling them that you're not trying to get somebody in trouble, you're trying to help them, to remove that stigma of being a rat or a snitch. So we developed a safe platform with which all of these programs can operate under, and it's called the Anonymous Reporting System. And it's a technology-based application where you can send a tip in to a crisis center. The crisis center is staffed with trained professionals who are multilingual, who then triage that information that they get from the tip. They don't just throw it over the wall to the police department. When we go into a district, we build an infrastructure within the school and the parents and local law enforcement that's already assigned to be part of the anonymous reporting system. So when the crisis center gets the tip, they know where it's coming from, and they know who their folks on the ground are based on the nature of the tip. So they triage that tip, whether it's an immediate life safety issue or anything else, and then they take the appropriate next steps to connect it to whether it's law enforcement or if it's a guidance counselor or the parents or some other administrator at the school. This cuts down on the principal getting a phone call 3 o'clock in the morning, like, hey, somebody's pulling hair on the bus today. The anonymous reporting system it comes with training up front, case management on the back end, and we have just started launching this, and it is enjoying incredible success, and we are making interventions every day with the anonymous reporting system. We're very proud of that. Basically, it's just a safe place for students and folks to make those tips. And so just a little bit of our impact, direct training through our national trainers. We place a priority on maintaining the fidelity of the programs and sustainability. So in our larger districts, we hire a full-time staff to stay with those school districts and keep the programs running and make sure that the next classes are getting the programs and that the fidelity is at 100%, because we really want this in the culture and the climate of the schools. And so we are now in some of the larger school districts in the country. We are in Miami-Dade, we are in Los Angeles Unified, we're in Chicago Public Schools, Boston Public Schools, we are throughout the state of Ohio, throughout the Midwest. We are building in Florida. We are coming up through the state of Florida. We are doing qualitative studies through the University of Michigan School of Public Health to get actual data metrics on our impact, but we know from evidence from the field that we are preventing mass shootings and suicides, bullying, cutting every day. And to date, we have trained over 3.5 million youth and adults in our programs. And those numbers are continuing to grow as we build and scale. Thank you. So I am out of time, and I want to respect the next speakers, and I want to respect your time, but I just want to finish the way I started, and I want to tell you how much it means to me that you took the time to come here and listen to basically what is just my story and an explanation of the work that I'm doing, and how proud I am to be able to share it with you, and how proud I am to be able to honor that little kid who truly was the caretaker of all living things, and for me to continue that spirit in his honor and in his absence. I feel like I'm honoring him that way, and I just want to tell you so much from the bottom of my heart that somewhere little Daniel is proud of you for coming here to listen to our story, and I just want to tell you thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.